So as part of this decolonizing method series, I mean, we are thinking of decoloniality as part of freeing thinking. You know, if you free thinking, then you're giving people an opportunity to express themselves and be able to engage in that expression towards finding out ways of innovating beyond what we could call the regular way of doing things, the dominant way of doing things. This could include aspects of, for example, scholarly activism that gives room for different participants or different players in research to actually contribute in different contexts. You can have words like research resistance, you can have words as, research justice, you can have terms including indigenous storytelling or sort of story work, which really embeds into what we do in different settings for decolonizing how things work out. In this work, we're actually looking at different bits and pieces that together, based on our first event, we'll be able to define collectively what we mean by decolonizing methods. And this includes the ability to challenge power through methods, whether we value the diversity in how we apply and use methods, some philosophical underpinnings in associated methods, how we are able to use methods in terms of having articulated them appropriately for our own work, and also considering the different dimensions that are associated with research methods towards sustainability. So in all this, our focus today is actually just one of them, which is in focusing on valuing diversity. And some of the work that we are embedding this is basically trying to explore how different methods have been applied, different settings at such, ideally in a way that demonstrates diversity, but also opens up room for multiple framings, multiple output, multiple voices. And it's together that we are thinking, well, today, just to go out of the traditional way of doing it, we are going to invite everybody to contribute their own perspectives of what methods are and how diversity works in that space. So we're asking how methods have been used to actually open up and broaden out and the aspect of letting go into innovative systems and framing. The STEPS Center in its work has been proponents of this multiple pathways approach. And in this story, there's always been the conversation between two planes. When you think about the inputs that we have in research, you can start thinking of them, the things that we attend to when you're thinking about research or understanding the different problems that we have or the different solutions that we're exploring in research. And often it has a plane of between, when you're narrowing in or when you're broadening out. And the other plane of this is about whether we have some perspective of on the output side, looking at recognizing specific ideas and sticking by them, or opening up possibilities and having different sort of plural conditions that can be taken up as outputs of the work we do. And this speaks to either you're closing down or you're opening up. So in the broader scheme of things, what you're saying here is that by thinking of decolonizing and valuing diversity, you're basically saying if you focus on opening up and you focus on broadening out, then every problem perhaps or every solution might have multiple ways on which people look at it. Here I have, for example, a graphics of, you could say this person is thinking about 8, or maybe it's the infinity symbol, or maybe it's, it's a wave, or depending on where you're sitting, how you're looking at it, you might have different views. So when you basically put this together, and you're saying it's important even in research that we open up and broaden out when it comes to the methods we use. Still following in this space, you realize that even in outputs or inputs, there could be some level of involvement, whether it's more participatory or it's more expert related. And still, you can have various different methods that we can think about in this space, from cost-benefit analysis all the way to things that facilitate an open space like methods and multi-criteria mapping, and really think about these different options. In the end, you have to start thinking of how does what I do contribute to this space? Am I necessitating the potential for opening up and broadening out? Am I accepting plurality in the work that I do in terms of the sources I get my inputs in and the kind of outputs that I get from these different methods? So when you start thinking about diversity of methods, of course, in some way, you want to think about how diversity of methods actually contributes to us doing something that is unique and looking into the future. And by this, you start thinking about, we come from we move from some of controlling, individualistic, kind of categorized ways of doing research, and try to transform this by encompassing different imaginations, different thoughts of view, so that in the end, we have some kind of mutualistic but a collective way in which we look at the methods that we apply. Stemming from these ideas is where we start thinking about valuing diversity, bringing in everybody's view onto the table and communicating that view as a strength rather than as a potential of scattering the way we think. Now, in that perspective, today's discussion actually centers on you as a participant, as a researcher, as a stakeholder. What does it mean for you when you think about diversity of methods? And as I indicated, the session today is more about everybody contributing an idea, what they think about this, and also thinking about the methods they have used before. Have they been able to broaden out in terms of the input they use for their methods, or have they been able to open up when it comes to research spaces that they are giving the outputs towards? And in some sense, in our discussion, we are also very interested in specific examples that can be resourceful in demystifying this.